President, Madam Commissioner, dear Secretary General of the ACP, Minister, friends. Well, first I would like to pay a sincere tribute to the President of Estonia for the speech. Actually, my speech could be simply say, just look at the Estonian experience. And therefore this will be much more important than long speeches, because this is a human and an institutional evolution. Therefore, and I think that the welcome address done by the President has been extremely clear on this. I would say that it is in any case particularly important to have this debate, and I would like to thank the e-Governance Academy, because it happens at the moment of conjunction of several factors. First, indeed, the Estonian presidency for the first time of the European Union. But second, this presidency is also happening in a moment of profound transformations. A transformation of the European Union, but even more important, transformation of the environment in which we are working. We are talking about globalization. We are talking about globalization very often with a certain sentiment of fear, which is triggering in turn some instinct of protection, of defense, of closing, of borders, of sometimes intolerance. I think that all this is incompatible with the very concept of e-society, e-government, e-institution, which are on the contrary suggesting the right approach, which is the approach to connect, is the approach to be transparent, is the approach to reach institution through a transparency and through an effective way of connecting with people. It is the best way to set the rules also progressively in order to take the most out of the opportunities which are presented by globalization. I think, therefore, there is, in my view, a connection on this. And there is a connection, therefore, with what is the environment in which we are defining and running the development policy. A development policy which has been now embedded into the SDGs, into Agenda 2030, which is not by chance a global agenda, which is saying and telling the true story, that in order to set or to work, in order to have a better world for everybody, more inclusive, more equal, generating jobs sustainable in an environment which is preserved, we need more interconnection. And therefore, this global agenda is an agenda which is suggesting that whatever we do for development is creating communalities, is putting people working together. It's not anymore the old donor and beneficiary paradigm, is rather a true paradigm of partnership in which we are all work on the same pages for the same objective. We tried at the European Union level to define a bit what we are doing in the newly adopted or about to be adopted formally and signed European Consensus for Development. I think it is an attempt, it is a contribution on our side in order to do it better, if I may say that in this way, to be a better Europe, a more united Europe, and a better partner for everybody. For the first time in this consensus, there is a paragraph addressing the importance of digital technology. And it says this: the EU and the member states, because it is important to remind that the consensus is politically binding on the EU institution and the EU member state, will continue to support information and communication technologies in developing countries as powerful enablers of inclusive growth and sustainable development, in particular promoting the use of digital technology in a range of priority areas such as e-governance, agriculture, education, water management, health and energy. I mean, listening at that from here, it seems obviously banal, but I would like to say that 10 years ago, there was still a big debate whether digital technology was really relevant for development. I remember that 10 years ago, it was considered a luxury. It was considered as something which was not exactly the best tool to fight against poverty. I mean, it seems now a bit of archaeological discovery, and thousands of years ago, as Madam Commissioner said. But this is the reality. Not more than 10 years ago, it was almost difficult to believe that fight against poverty was something in which digital technology and information technology had a big role to play. And we tried with the African Union in particular, pioneering a bit, setting up some experiences in which we could show that it was exactly the opposite. For example, the East African submarine cable, which was one of the first attempts to create a space and interconnection with the Center of Excellencies in Mauritius in particular, but clearly putting into our action in Eastern Africa, the interconnection. Second, the experience of telemedicine, which seemed to be a bit strange, and it was not easy to set up two centers, one in Eastern Africa and the other in Western Africa. So just to say, that, I mean, the changes are fast, but now they should be also fast in the mind of policymakers, and in order to set up the right things. Therefore, I have to say, we did a certain number of things, but just to give you the scale, in the last 10, 15 years, as European Commission, we mobilized, in particular with the ACP, but not only with the ACP, 350 million euros in grants, which is peanuts, actually. If we think in these terms today, this is actually peanuts. But this shows precisely the difficulty also of identifying the right interlocutor, also to identify what to do precisely in this. But 350 million is something which is a bit, let's say, small, which is very small. Therefore, I think that we have accumulated a lot of delay in this. We have to accelerate now. We have to build on some mistakes that we made in the past altogether. And we have to reshape a strategy and to be determined also in changing way which we are doing. Because in front of these 350 million euros, which were spent traditionally in grants for financing projects, we also spent 18.6 million in order to support through blending more solid project. And this 18.5 million produced 780 million of investment. This shows that we also have to do differently, not only to identify digital work and application as one of the key priority and enabling factor, as we say, but also to do it differently, much less grant in the old way, but much more grant leveraging investment. Information technologies go hand in hand in changing the way in which we are working and promoting more investment, investing with the private sector. I think that this is the new challenge that we have, all of us. Today, we are working again on a certain number of projects, etc., but we have really to embed this into the new instrument that we are about to adopt, I hope under the Estonian presidency, which is the European External Fund and Plan, which is created in order to use in a more effective way our financial means in leveraging investment, public and private, and also to set up for the first time a guarantee which is covering possible losses which are suffered by private investors in doing business precisely in this. And I think that we have to really change a bit paradigm. I don't want to say, from billion to trillions, but at least from millions to billions. This is at least a reasonable, let's say, objective that we have to have in mind. And then, in order to prepare the ground, because I'm convinced that before doing, we need also to agree on what to do. At the beginning of May, we produce a policy document, which is trying and setting a bit the scene for the European Union, and which I hope will produce political conclusion under the Estonian presidency, and there is no best opportunity in order to have something which is powerful, unbureaucratic, and effective. In this policy document, we try to set up a comprehensive framework for mainstreaming digital technology into development policy. And I would like to take very clearly what Madam President said, that it's not just about a technology, it's about a change of culture, because it's not just to use digital technology in order to do more or less the same thing. Yes, indeed, it will be extremely useful in order to reach faraway places, in order to connect people without having infrastructure, but it is fundamentally a change of governance. It is fundamentally a way to change the way of functioning of the state in many developing countries. So therefore, it's not an easy agenda after all, because it's an agenda for more democracy. It's an agenda, in any case, for better governance. Therefore, in this context, we identify four main priority areas. One, to promote access to affordable and secure broadband connectivity and to digital infrastructure. I think that this is and should be one of the first objectives. By the way, just recently, I think a couple of days ago, the European Commission proposed an approach which is the Wi-Fi for all in the European Union, in the digital single market. Why not setting up, for example, with the friends of the African Union, something like this in Africa? You know, a sort of Wi-Fi for all space, which is set up in Africa. I mean, frankly speaking, technologically, it's not that difficult. You know, it's a question of governance. It's a question of also addressing some monopolies which have been setting up progressively in Africa. So therefore, promote access to affordable and secure broadband connectivity into digital infrastructure. Second is to promote digital literacy and skills, exactly as Madam President said for Estonia, you know, to invest in this, because this is a true investment for the future. Third, to foster digital entrepreneurship and job creation, because a lot of enterprise now are to be created through job, but not only e-commerce. Why e-commerce, for example, is not sufficiently developed? Why the interconnection and the virtual platform to create jobs are still underdeveloped in many parts of our partner countries? I think all this is creating jobs, and jobs which are very often rich in content, in skills, and also lasting, because able to transform themselves much more than heavy infrastructure. Then, to promote the use of digital technology in an enable for sustainable development, of course, because we have also to consider that at the end of the day, our test will be to see whether people are better off, and I think people should remain at the center of our thinking. Now, on this, it means in practical terms to invest certainly in infrastructure, optical cable, broadband, but also infrastructure which are like a possible Wi-Fi for all, means also immateriality, which are connecting people. We have experienced Africa Connect 1, soon Africa Connect 2, which, by the way, 670 higher education institutions are already connecting. And I think that we could build on this. We had in Latin America the Red Clara network, and the Caribbean, also the CaribNet, which is an important experience. But then, in addition to infrastructure, we have to do more in policy harmonization, because if there is not a conducive, not only business environment, but regulatory framework, this will simply not last, and therefore this will be extremely difficult to produce any result. And then to work in order to have cyber resilience, because cyber is clearly, a dimension in which it is not only, resilience in physical terms, it is resilience in order to have a structure which is able to be sustainable and able to be transforming permanently itself. I think, therefore, this is the plan. We will mobilize resources, as a Commission and the Member State. I think that this should be one of the key challenges that we have in the future. We have a test. We have a test at the end of this year, by the way, under the Estonian presidency, which is the EU-Africa Summit. I think on this, we should be able to present concretely what we mean. We should be able to present concretely a visible partnership between African countries, Africa business, and European business, in order to also adopt a plan for reforms in Africa, supported by our means, but also our experience. I very much believe that it's not just a question of money. Money is always important, but it's a question of sharing, of doing together, being even stronger partner. And I think that the lesson that they can take from digital economy is a stronger interconnection, is a stronger partnership, because interconnection and partnership are two ways to say the same thing. I thank you very much again, Estonia, for this important conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.